Hello and welcome to Weekend Review episode number 97. My name is Sean, and on this week's show we're talking about Knives Out, Garfield Kart Furious Racing. I'll tell you about the streams happening over on twitch.tv/SeanOsaurusRex, and we'll look forward to this week's new releases. This week's game is Garfield Kart, which is basically a $30 game that I thought would be funny to stream, but actually isn't all that bad. It's a fairly standard kart racer that features your three modes here: single race, Grand Prix, and time trial. And then the single races in the Grand Prix you can do in easy 50cc, medium 100cc, or hard 150cc, aka Dark Souls mode. But what I wasn't expecting with this game was the level of customization that you could have. So going back here to the main menu, if you go into the garage, there are 8 characters in this game. Some of these characters I didn't even know existed, like Harry over here, whose bio is an alley cat, friend of Garfield, big fan of chicks, which I thought was funny when I streamed it. Still find it funny now. And basically what you have is you have 8 characters, and each of them have a specific car, 2 hats that you can wear, and a spoiler over here. And if you put all of them together, they're color coded. You get a little bit of a boost to the stats of the car. And the way you unlock them adds replayability to the game. Both the hats and the spoilers each have 3 levels that you can unlock: a bronze, a silver, and a gold. In order to unlock the gold spoiler here, you have to win every single race in the Lasagna Cup. And then for the hats, you have to run on specific courses and beat either win a single race in 150cc or beat the time trial gold level, which is typically pretty difficult. I really appreciate that there are 2 separate ways to unlock this, because I'm not particularly good at like hot lap, fast lap, gold time trial stuff. It's just not something that clicks with me. Having the option to win in 150cc is super helpful and makes the game feel completable, when basically if there was only the one option that was like get the gold medal level, I'm going to look at it and be like, well, I am super effed and I'm never going to be able to complete this game. So let's run a race and talk about the gameplay. I'll pick 150cc's to show you what a pro gamer I am. We'll just do a single race here in the Hamburger Cup. We'll pick the snow level just for fun. Oh, you'll notice that there are little puzzle pieces. Those are collectibles. They're fine. I'll point them out, hopefully, if I see them. So here we have Sneak a Peek Valley. Well, it just says Sneak a Peek. I don't have any of the puzzle pieces or anything, but we'll just jump in right here. I'm in 8th place. I did that wrong. You can get a boost. Anyway, it's pretty fairly standard kart racing. You drive around, kind of bland and boring tracks, and then you just try to win. You can pick up items and avoid items. From what I can tell, let's see if we can get around this corner real quick. Here we go. It does definitely fall to the issues that a lot of kart racing games have, and that is that if you can get out in first, like I'm out in first here, if you can get away from the pack, you probably won't have too much trouble. And if you get too far behind, the game will actually give you the weapons you need to make yourself competitive again, if that makes sense. But if you do get stuck in that middle pack, let's say like 2nd through 6th, you're going to be stuck there for the whole time, because there's just too much chaos, and that can be frustrating at times, especially on the harder difficulty. I ran a race and just got my butt kicked. The game also has puzzle piece collectibles, which is interesting, though they rely too heavily on you having a specific item to get them. I haven't done any testing. I'm sure that there's an easier way to get them, but just doing like the Grand Prix that I streamed on Wednesday over on twitch.tv/SeanOsaurusRex, I went past a lot of them, and I was like, oh boy, this feels like it's gonna take a really long time. Can you go? I just gave myself my own item. Okay, cool. I've never done that before. The turns can be a little weird. The controls aren't great, and running into other cars is an absolute nightmare sometimes. So here we have the spring ability. We'll see if we can get a collectible coming around. I believe it's this next corner. There it is. So what you do is you do that, and it didn't jump the way I thought it would jump. So that's how you get the collectibles. It's not the most interesting thing in the world, and I don't really think they do anything, aside from just something to go for. I hit the wrong button there, and I almost ran into a pie. Mercifully, though, this game's music and sound effects are actually quite pleasant. The music is totally fine. It's not grating on your ears, and the same goes for the sound effects. It feels like a kind of game, especially based on a cartoon, that could so easily swing to the, like, I wanted to rip my ears off because it's just so annoying. But these are actually totally fine. They're pleasant background noise to an otherwise pretty average kart racer. Try to win here. Oh, that's not good. Don't drive into that. Let's be honest, this game's not gonna knock your socks off. It's an innocent little kart racer based on a comic strip cat. That's what you're getting out of this. The music, thankfully, isn't that bad. The kart racing's fine. Oh god, stupid item. The game has 8 characters, which is the bare minimum for a kart racer these days, and the tracks are pretty bland and boring, but it's not the worst $30 I've ever spent, so I guess that's something. The jumps are really weird. I'm not just now realizing, but boy, they're a mess. Like, man. Also, those sleep pillows are really annoying. Did all that and I got second. This week's movie is Knives Out, and I was actually able to catch an early access screening on Saturday night. And part of the promotion with the early access screening is they were handing out posters. This poster, to be exact, as it slips out of my hands. Look at this cool poster. It looks really cool. So they handed out these posters, and as I was walking up the escalator, I heard the guy tell me, hey, just be sure to check on the back of your poster, see if there's a red sticker on it. And he kind of fumbled his words because I accidentally dropped my ID that I needed to show him, and I couldn't get my app to load, so it felt like he was supposed to be like in rhythm of like, oh, I'm going to say this, I'm going to let him know this information, and then I had that whole kerfuffle, and then he was like, you know what, sir, you have enough going on in your life, there's a sticker on the back of the poster, it's red, look at it. And the weird thing is that I only got this exact poster because the person in front of me who also went to go see Knives Out said, can I get the poster after the movie? So what would have been his poster was now my poster. So I looked on the back of it, and as you can see, it's a black sticker. Okay, innocent enough, whatever. He said red sticker, I have a black sticker. Not that big of a deal. So I go up, I sit in my seat, I watch the trailers, and then there's a special message from the director, Rian Johnson, before the film starts. And he says that everyone who was in the theater, you should have gotten a Knives Out poster. If your poster has a sticker on the back, he didn't say red sticker, if your poster has a sticker on the back, go down to guest services after the film and pick up your mystery prize. And I was like, oh, mine has a sticker. The guy said red. Did he forget to say red? Because the thing that they showed of Rian Johnson was him incorrectly center framed on 2 posters that said Knives Out on it that looked like it was filmed on an iPhone in like 480p and it was blown up on the screen. The footage did not look great, and it was like he had one shot at it. So I was like, okay, well, I'll just worry about that later. Watch the movie. You'll find out what I thought of it here in just a moment. And then after the movie, I thought, you know what? I'll go check. Because what if I did win? That'd be kind of cool. I'll have something to show off on the show. That's a neat little story. Yada, yada, yada. I was going through my head of like, okay, how do I set this up? Like writing it out of my brain and then not writing it down so that when I'm trying to do this, like in recording it, it's a whole big mess. Fantastic. Really good thought process, Sean. So I go down and I stand to the customer service desk or the guest service desk, and I'm kind of like waiting there. And after a couple minutes, a couple people come up to me and they're like, is there something we can help you with? And I was like, yeah, I got this Knives Out poster and it has a sticker on the back. Do I like win something? And they're like, oh, yes, you do. And I was like, that's freaking awesome. Cool. Thanks. And so they're like trying to communicate with like the people above them to get the thing for me, whatever it was. And at this point, I still didn't know what it was. So I was excited because I could, man, I'm going to open this on the show. It'll be like a surprise for me. And then you'll get to watch my like real reaction. And as I'm having this thought process in my head, she goes, do you want me to just give them the blank? And I was like, oh, well, now I know what it is. It's not a big deal. I just thought it was really funny that I made it that far in the process and was like, and moments away from being given this just plain white box and then just have them be like, oh, you want me to give them the blank? And what's in this box is actually a coffee mug. So I got a coffee mug, and it's part of the movie, not literally used in the movie, but it has a little Knives Out logo on it, and it has this, which, you know, if you've seen the film or if you're going to go see the film, you know what this means by the end of it. And it's huge. This is a ginormous coffee mug. It's huge. It really weighed my Toy Story backpack down as I was walking back to the bus station. So sometimes going to early access screenings of movies not only provides you with content for your internet show, but it also gives you free coffee mugs. Pretty sweet. So thank you to the guy. I want to thank the guy who was in front of me who said, I'd like my poster after the movie. Thank you. I'd like to thank my AMC app for not opening in a timely fashion, which means that I let a total of 3 people go in front of me. You are the reason I'm here on this show right now with this ginormous coffee mug. Thank you so very much. I really appreciate it. Are they playing the music? Are they playing me off? Do I need to wrap this up? I want to thank my mom for, being my mom. Really appreciate it. Thank you. As for the film itself, I actually feel very torn on it. There are parts of it that I really love. I like the style of it. I think it has a lot of energy. It's fun. It's interesting. I thought the characters were engaging. I love the cast and the performances, particularly Daniel Craig, who is absolutely incredible in this movie. He plays the detective, and Chris Evans, who plays a really good asshole. That's not a great sentence. He seemed like he was having just a ton of fun playing this bratty asshole of a character, and he's really great in the movie. We also have Jamie Lee Curtis and Toni Collette. Both of them are fantastic. There are no weak spots in this cast. Everybody's great. It's fantastic and fun to watch, and what I enjoyed most about the movie was having that ensemble all on screen all at once as they kind of bounce back and forth, and watching those conversations I thought was the best part of the movie. Where I get a little bit conflicted with this movie is in its plot structure, and I'm going to conveniently break it down into 3 specific parts, which conveniently lines up with the 3 acts of the movie. But there are 2 specific turning points that really highlight where I like this movie, where I don't like this movie, and where I like this movie again. I think the film starts out really strong. After a brief introduction that gives us our starting time point, we actually get introduced to all these characters through interviews with detectives, and I really like the way that they do this. Through these interviews, we get a sense of the party, how it went down from various perspectives. It's interesting to see one scene play out from one character's perspective, and then they go back to that with a different character, and then they get to add some more information to it. We also get introduced to some of these characters' quirks, and we get a little bit of background information that's just enough to get us started on this. And I was really excited about this portion of the movie because I was sitting there and I was like, I'm going to try and figure this out, and I'm going to see if I can see what they want me to see and how they want me to see it, and see if I can piece together who did what and what's going on. I was really excited about that, and I loved the idea of starting this movie with these character interviews and watching the things, like I said, from different angles and going like, okay, does this line up? Does this make sense? And from a film perspective, it's really cool because there are the shots that are almost exactly the same, but there are different characters where they, depending on who's telling the story, there are different characters in specific spots. All that stuff's really interesting. But at the end of the first act, we get to the nearly movie-killing turn, and man, this really sucked. So it sucks for 3 specific reasons. 1, I don't actually like the turn. I think it kind of sucks, and I don't think there's really any way you could see that that was what was going to happen. I felt kind of cheated in that way. 2, it really changed the tone and the flow of the movie, and I didn't really end up enjoying that aspect of it. I really liked what they were setting up in the first act, and for them to turn so hard, and I was like, oh, this isn't as much fun. There are still glimpses through this entire section of the family bickering and arguing, which was the part that I enjoyed the most in the first act. There are some glimpses here and there, but it just didn't work nearly as well as the first third of the movie did. And 3, it gives us, the audience, way too much information, which in turn makes our super great detective kind of look like a bumbling moron for a little bit, where because we know so much, we look at him and we're like, I was sitting in the theater just going how are you falling for this? How is this, if you're supposed to be such a great detective, how is this passing over you? I don't understand. And it's not necessarily the character's fault, it's just that we have too much information. There were some minor things that I did like about this section, but I thought it just sucked the wind out of the sails from the first part, which I was enjoying so much. Thankfully, the third of this movie is absolutely fantastic, and it veers much more towards the original style that I really liked as it wraps everything up. And boy, did I love the way all of this stuff tied together. I love the way the director called the specific shots early in the movie to come up later in a way that was understandable and graspable, and I just thought that everything tied together so neatly and so well. There is one little bit of it that's kind of heavy-handed, maybe a little bit overdone, but it's not that distracting. And I'm so thankful that it ended the way that it did, because as I was sitting in the theater, I was thinking to myself, like, uh-oh, this is going to be tricky to review because I really like the first part and I don't like the second part. So right now we're at like a 50-50 split. And if it keeps going this way, I'm going to walk away being like, man, I don't understand why people are so excited about this movie. It's not all that great. But the way it turns back in the third of the movie is, and this may sound exaggeratory, but for me, it single-handedly, like, it saved the movie. I thought it was really well done and very interesting, and it brought it back to what I wanted it to be and what I liked most about it. Oh, thank God it ended the way it did. The movie is consistently funny throughout. That's the one thing I think it does consistently from start to finish, is really pepper in the humor in there, and most of it works. There's a couple of lines, like the CSI KFC line never worked. It never worked in the trailers, and it always felt out of place, and I was like, okay, comedy stuff is really hard to preview because of the timing of it. I didn't think it worked really all that well in the movie either. It really stuck out in a weird way, but a lot of the stuff really worked. I loved the donut analogy. It's fantastic. And like, it's that really great, weird idea that makes sense, but is kind of silly, but like, you see where they're going with it. But it cracked me up. There's something about that thought process that really got me. This movie is absolutely worth a watch, and I'm glad that I'm walking away with such a positive impression of it. I think that the 2/3 that I liked kind of erased the second part that I didn't really like, and with the way the movie concludes, the movie does kind of have to go down that route because that's what it's set up to do. It just didn't really work for me. The whole cast is fantastic. It's really fun to watch. It's so hard because looking at it after the movie, I go like, okay, when you take all the stuff that happens in the final moment of the film and you apply it to what happens in the middle, the part that I don't really like, it's easy to look past what I don't like about it, but at the same time, I didn't enjoy it while it was happening. It only works because I made it all the way through the movie, and I think that's kind of the issue with it. I guess, like, I feel like I should like this movie more. I feel like I should be telling you, wow, run out and go see this. But there's this glaring issue that I have with it, which brings my enthusiasm for it down. I think this is a movie worth watching, and I think it's worth your time. Even if you go in just to watch the performances themselves, because this cast is so good, I think that is enough to recommend this movie. I liked Knives Out overall. Finally on the show, we'll take a look at this week's new releases. It's a very light week as it is Thanksgiving week here in the US. There is nothing on Blu-ray. Queen and Slim and Knives Out are both in theaters, and then Gree is on the PlayStation 4 as far as the games are concerned. Streams this week are as follows. I am finally going to start playing Life is Strange 2 as the 5th episode releases next Tuesday. So on Wednesday, I'm going to play The Awesome Adventures of Captain Spirit and the first episode of Life is Strange 2. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday will be episodes 2, 3, and 4, and then I'll finish up Life is Strange number 2 sometime next week. But Thursday is Thanksgiving, so there will be a special early morning stream, probably about 10 a.m. on Thursday morning, for a football video game that you'll want to tune in for, because it's going to be a lot of fun. Thank you so much for watching this week's episode of Week in Review. If you like the content, scroll on down and hit that subscribe button. If you like the content enough, you can leave me a comment. You can tell me, why was it a dumb idea to spend $30 on Garfield Cart Furious Racing, a title it took me 17 takes to get correct? Are you excited for Knives Out? And if you saw it during the early access screenings, what did you think of it? Be sure to check out the streams over on twitch.tv/ShaunosaurusRex Wednesday through Sunday, and check back every Tuesday for more Week in Review. We'll see you next week.